Hello, my name is Pat. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm doing the mid-year book freak out tag. So before we start, it's the start of the heat wave in Seattle. This is the first day of the 3-4 day heat wave. You hear a buzzing sound. That's my fan I have turned on. It's very hot right now, so please forgive the buzzing sound. But I wanted to do this before it gets even warmer. So let's get started. The first question is the best book you've read so far in 2021. I have a few books that are really great this year. The one book that I really want everyone to read and I really recommend to everybody is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. This is a memoir from the survivor of the Stanford sexual assault case. And so obviously before going in, there's a lot of trigger warnings for, sexual assault and sexual abuse. This is a beautiful written memoir. A lot of great questions raised and great points raised. It opens up a lot of discussions and it's a hard read, but I feel like it's a very important read for everybody. And I really look up to Chanel Miller. She's an amazing human being. The next question, the best sequel you've read so far in 2021. And I'm gonna have to go with a reread, and that is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This book is so well written, especially compared to the Shadow and Bone trilogy. Leigh Bardugo's writing has improved so much from this one. I just loved all the characters. I didn't care much about the whole plot thing, but what was happening with the different characters and their journeys. That's what I was really invested in. And this broke my heart. I still get teary-eyed remembering this book. I cried so hard. Yeah, best sequel that I've read so far. But this of course wouldn't be a me video if I don't choose more than one for the best. I reread the Graceling series because there was a very recent release of the latest book in this series, which is Winterkeep, and I really love this one. I remember loving Fire and Graceling when I read it years ago. Bitter Blue wasn't as good as the first two books, and I still feel the same about it. It's still really good though. But Winterkeep was so good. It was so good. The world just keeps expanding, and I really love the characters here, and I feel like we definitely get a lot more development, and especially with Bitter Blue, who we followed in the previous book before this one that wasn't as good as the first two books. Again, I really enjoyed this one, Winterkeep. If you haven't read the Graceling Realm series, go read it. It's so good. It has such a unique world and magic system, and again, it just keeps expanding more and more with each book, and we follow such great female characters. So Winterkeep. Next, new release you haven't read yet but want to. Okay, so for this one I have a couple. The first one is the one that was released very early on this year, After Age Eve Brown. I know, why haven't I read it? I don't know. I was planning on reading this, I think March, and it's already June now. I still do want to read this. I've heard so many good things about this, but I just have a lot of books I need to get to first before this one, but I do want to get to this now. And then I also have these two are more recently released, like this month, last month, and that is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. A lot of people have been talking about this, a lot of people loved it, and I'm going to love this, I know, but I have a lot of books that I need to read first before this one. So Malibu Rising and One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. There's been a lot of discourse about this book, and there has been few mixed reviews about this one, but I'm still very much looking forward to this one. I think I will really enjoy this one. But again, I will be going into this one aware of some of the issues that has been raised about this book. So again, I'm still really excited about this one. I have 2 copies of this. I'm actually going to give this specific copy to my sister. So next question, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Okay, so I have this few, and honestly this isn't all of it. With all of the questions here, this isn't all of it, but these are my most anticipated. So first one is When Night Breaks by Janella Angeles. This is the second book in the duology that she has. The first book is Where Dreams Descend. I haven't read it. I do have the Owl Crate. I actually also pre-ordered the Owl Crate edition of this one. But again, I'm very excited. I've heard so many good things about this series, and it's from a Filipino author as well, so I gotta support. Next is Our Violent Ends. This is the second book in another duology. The first book is These Violent Delights. This is by Chloe Gong. I'm pretty sure you guys know about and heard about this. Again, so many great things about this one. I don't have it pre-ordered yet, but I will somehow, somewhere. I don't know when. I think it's already available for pre-order, but I'm not pre-ordering it just yet. Next one is Beasts of Prey by Anna Gray. I've been seeing this going around since 2 months ago, last month, and it actually is going to be released in September. So I'm definitely looking forward to this one. A lot of people have been talking about this one. It's a debut novel from a Black author. It is fantasy. It sounds so good. It sounds like it's going to have a really unique magic system. So I'm very excited to get to this one. I do actually have an ER copy of this one, so excited to get to it. The next one is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. This I have already pre-ordered over on Target. I have enjoyed so much the first 2 books in its trilogy, A Good Girl Sky Murder, and Good Girl Bad Blood. So it's rare for me to find a really good YA thriller suspense kind of series. So I really am looking forward to reading this one. The first two books definitely did not disappoint. I just unexpectedly loved this series, so I'm just gonna be continuing reading it. Actually, I think this one comes out September. Biggest disappointment is House of Leaves, Mark Danielewski. I've heard so many good things about this throughout the years. It's a thriller, sci-fi fantasy book. It has like horror elements as well. I wanted to love it so much, but it's just one character in that character's point of view that I just didn't care for, that I didn't like, that really dragged the story for me. It's a very unique storytelling, that is for sure, and I know a lot of people really take their time to read this book, and I did too, but it took a while for me to read, not because it was a different kind of way to read, but mainly because the parts that I didn't like were so dragging, and it really took away from the story for me. So I could have definitely enjoyed this book if not for that aspect, which is that one person's perspective that I didn't think brought anything to the story. So yeah, House of Leaves. I wanted to love this one so much, but I still liked it. Definitely, if I'm going to reread it, I think I will someday. I'm definitely not going to read that part. I just didn't care at all. Like it didn't add anything to the story. It just made me mad thinking. It makes me mad thinking about it, because it definitely took away from the story and took away from the enjoyment I could have had for the story. And the next one is The Librarian by Kirsty Sloat. This is actually one of the books that I had for my TBR for the Indie Author Month for June this month, and I DNF'd it at 60% because I didn't like any of the characters. It's not that I felt neutral about them, but I disliked them, and I rarely dislike a character, especially not a group of characters. And I wanted to love this one so much because the premise sounds very amazing. It's about a girl getting transported to a book, romance, and I was prepared to love it. I was prepared to enjoy it, and I knew it's probably going to be a really fun story of romance, and with some fantasy aspect to it. I wanted that, but I didn't get that because the characters again are really, they're not, there was a lot of internalized misogyny in the main character. The main character isn't very likable, and I get not unlikable characters. They're not, the nicest or kindest characters, and I get that. But she just had, again, aside from the internalized misogyny, she likes to blame other people for what was happening to her. And even though, some people, might have caused that certain situation, it's not fair to just blame that one person. Like, she would say, oh, how dare you do this to me? Or I want to, like, she was like, there was just a lot of things that she was saying in her head and doing that I just didn't like at all. And then she had this argument with her friend. Her friend told her something that is very true actually about her, and she got mad, and then she said that she was doing the opposite of what she was actually planning on doing, which is what her friend exactly said. So I just didn't enjoy it. It made me really frustrated, so I just stopped reading it. And it was just supposed to be like a trilogy. Yeah, I wanted to like it, but I didn't. Biggest surprise. Okay, I had a lot of biggest surprise for this year. So the first one is actually a reread, and that is the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I read this when this first came out, like years ago, and well, I don't actually remember anything about this, but on my Goodreads rating, I rated all of these 5 stars, or like really highly, and I thought it wasn't going to hold up because I didn't remember it. A lot of people were saying like really mixed reviews about them, and I loved it. I really did. It's definitely like one of those like first releases YA fantasy. So I think because of that, because I knew that going in, I think I just appreciated it a little bit more. It definitely has its faults and flaws, but I feel like it's a really good fantasy, especially for when it was released. And the world is really good, and it had a lot of potential, definitely, and it could have been definitely improved. If it was written, a little bit more later or during a different time in the, reading publishing era. But I think a big part of why I really enjoyed this one is because I knew the world. I knew how amazing the world was going to be, and I just appreciated the character a little bit more. I didn't dislike any of the characters, but I definitely had different experiences, I feel like, from how a lot of people experienced reading this one. And this was a really big surprise for me. I thought this was going to be like a 3 stars book series for me. This is definitely a solid 4 stars, like all of it 4.5 stars, 4 stars. It's a great series. It's a great YA, I think more lower end YA kind of series. So yeah. The next one is, I actually mentioned this already, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This definitely surprised me because I thought this was just going to be, you know, a really fun thriller, but definitely got dark. The main character I really enjoyed, and I didn't like see where the story went, because usually with thrillers I get to like find out what is happening, or I might have an idea on where the story might go, and it's usually one of the few things that I would think about. And this one, not really, and I really love the execution of the thriller and how we get to the conclusion of this one. And again, the sequel for this one too, Good Girl, Bad Blood, made me very emotional. Like, I didn't expect to cry as much as I did reading that book. And I also enjoyed the character development of our main character. So that one. And then also this one is from Book of the Month, and that is The Star-Crossed Sisters of Tuscany. I expected this to be a really like cute love story with maybe a hint of like historical fiction-y, because it's following the main character who, in her family, there's a curse on second-born daughters, and she's a second-born. Essentially the curse says that second-borns will never find love, and it's been true since that generation where it came from. And one day she gets a call from her aunt, who's also a second daughter, telling her that she knows a way to break the curse. And so she invites her and her cousin, who's also a second-born, to go to Tuscany, where their family were from, to try to break the curse. And this was very emotional for me as well. I'm emotional. I cry very easily, but this one was very heart-wrenching for me, especially the last like 200 pages of this book. I was just crying the entire the last 150, 200 pages of this book, because it was that emotional. It's a great story of family too, and belonging, and family dynamics, and family history. And it's not necessarily romance at all, actually. Yeah, it's a complicated relationship between families and generations, and like family secrets, and how the curse came to be. And it's surprised me with how much I felt for the characters and how much I love following the characters. Next one is Eat Your Heart Out by Kelly DeVos. This is an arc sent to me by Penguin Jean as well. This is following the main character Vivian, who gets sent to this weight loss camp, and from there starts a zombie apocalypse. And so she tries to survive with her newfound friends. And again, I didn't expect this to be very emotional and heart-wrenching. I knew it was going to be difficult for me to read, especially with, you know, like the weight loss camp and the fat phobia and the fat shaming and all of that. I knew it was going to be difficult for me to read, and definitely there are elements of that here. But there's like an unexpected found family in this. It's also a story of friendship and actual like biological family and relationships. So that, yeah, it got very emotional at the end. And I want a sequel, because I want them to take revenge, and I want to see them more, the group of friends that we had at the end, because I just loved all of them. And I love that we follow like different perspectives, and it's not just Vivian that we're following. I thought it was going to be like a single person perspective. We're actually following each of the main characters here. They get their own like chapters, so that was really great. And there were like some twists at the end that I didn't really expect at all, which I also really enjoyed, so very surprised with that one. The last one, The Taking of Jake Livingston. This is also another arc that was sent to me by Penguin Jean, and again, I didn't expect this to go the way it did. It was a lot darker than I expected, and definitely a lot of trigger warnings. We're following a main character who sees ghosts and gets in danger when this ghost that he had been seeing, the ghost of a student who went to a school and shot people. So there's definitely gun violence on here. So it definitely was a lot darker than expected, and there's also like family aspects in this one. So again, it was a lot of surprise. The gravitas that gave me, and like the emotional journey that I also went through with this book, I didn't expect. Those are my biggest surprises this year. Favorite new author, Leigh Bardugo, definitely. Because I didn't remember a lot of what happened when I read Shadow and Bone. She wasn't really on my to-read list, although I did read her most recent one, Ninth House. Because I saw the growth from her writing, she's definitely now one of my favorite authors. Next one is Hafsa Faisal, the author of We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars duology. This is such a beautifully written fantasy story, and I loved it so much. I enjoyed it so much. I definitely understand the hype, and I know now why people love this series so much. So if you haven't read it, go read it. It's so good. We are following Zafira, who is parading as a hunter. People think that she's a guy, and she's well known for entering this very dangerous forest, and she's the only person who has ever gone out of this forest alive and sane. And she gets recruited by this witch to bring back magic. Along the way, she meets Nasir, who is the prince of kingdom and also an assassin, and also romance between the two of them, and also found family here. Found family, really great fan family here. I loved all of the characters here, but I definitely love Nasir and Zafira because, especially Nasir is such a simp, and I just love reading whenever he simps for Zafira because I kind of, you know, understand it. I simp for Zafira too, but seeing him simp for Zafira on a different level. Also Altair, oh my god, Altair. It's a yes for me. So definitely Hafsa Faisal, because this book also has like really beautifully written prose. And definitely Tempest of Tea is definitely, it's on my TBR. I'm kind of afraid to pre-order it because I have a feeling it might be in one of my subscription boxes, so we'll see when it comes out, because I don't think it might come out next month, or I mean next year, but I'm not sure. So next one is another one that I didn't expect, which is Stacey Lee. She is the author of these three, well, she actually has another one, Under the Painted Sky, historical fictions following Chinese main characters. And the first one that I have here is Outrun the Moon, and then we have Dancer's Girl. This is definitely the most popular one that she has before her newest release, Like Up to Titanic. And she's my new favorite author because she makes these really amazing main female characters that are very strong, very smart, know what they want, know how to get what they want, but they're also struggling with their place in society as a woman, but also a woman of color. So these are all historical fictions, and I loved all of them, especially like following the main characters that are just so amazing. So yeah, another favorite author of mine. Definitely will be checking out her next few books, but this one is the recent one that she published. I think this was published last month. Yeah, I think it was last month this was released. So if you haven't read this one, Look Up the Titanic, we are following Valora, who is, what do you call it, an exhibitionist? Is that what you call? She's a circus performer, and she dreams of going to New York City to perform, and she wants to perform with her twin brother, who's also on this ship to the Titanic. But because of an unexpected turn of events, she gets turned away, and she decides to become a stowaway for this one. And we know how the Titanic ends, and so it's quite emotional, and there's also really great found family in this one, so yay. Also, yeah, found family in these as well, especially Outrun the Moon. So okay, next one, newest fictional crush. This is hard to do because with a lot of fictional crushes, it's not that I want them to be mine, I just want them to be with the, you know, their partners, because they're just the biggest sims and the greatest sweethearts, etc. So the first one is Nasir Gamek. Are we surprised? I just talked about him, talking about We Free the Stars and We Hunt the Flame. Biggest sim, I love him. I don't know how many times I watched this TikTok from this booktuber that I follow. She made this video of Nasir, like quotes from the book of Nasir just simping over Zafira, which is a big yes for me because he's the biggest simp. I love him. Also, Nikolai Lantsov. I have not read King of Scars and Renewables, but when I met him on Siege and Storm, he's a yes for me too. I loved him so much. He was like my newest favorite character, and throughout the book, he was still my favorite character. So, and from Fire, from the Greasing series, Recent Realm series, Prince Brigan. I love him so much. He's like the quiet type of person who's very sweet, but also very like smart and loyal, capable and strong. And the way he just protects and cares for the main character Fire in the book was just to me. And he also had a kid, so, and I just love their interaction as well. Yeah, Brigan, he's one of the like quietly sweet type of characters that are just, he's not like problematic, he's not like cold or anything. He's a bit cold, but it's because he's like a soldier. He leads his people very well, and he takes care of them, cares about them. But again, he has the loyalty of his people because he is a kind and capable leader, and also very sweet. So I've never heard anybody talk about it. Next, newest favorite character. Our Crooked Kingdom crew, of course, are crows, the newest favorite characters, but especially Thias, Nina, and Inej, and also Wylan. Well, also, you know, Jesper and Cass, but especially those three. And a lot of people might be surprised that Matthias is one of my favorite characters, because a lot of people hated him upon meeting him in the first book, which I definitely understand, but that's one of the reasons why I actually love him, is because he had this really amazing character arc and character growth, and I just love watching it. And even though it's painful to watch the prejudices that he has, it's also amazing to watch him grow, to change. You know, the things that he has learned as a kid, the culture he was in, the society that he had grown up from, and relearning that and seeing all these other characters that he has prejudices in, and seeing them as human beings and seeing how wrong it was to be prejudiced towards them. I just loved it. So I really liked his character because I definitely loved his character arc. And Nina, of course, she's a badass. Is that even a question? And Inej, the thing about Inej is she's a badass, but she's also very kind. So I think that's why a lot of people love her. And you know, obviously you would. And Waylon is a cinnamon roll and want to keep him safe. So yeah, that's my favorite character. Next, another one, again from A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, Pipa Fitzmahovie, the main character for this book. I really like her. I definitely understand that some people don't like her. I can see why they might not, but I think to me she's an overall likable character. She's your typical like overachieving, smart, book smart kind of person who's a little bit reckless and a little bit, in a way you could see that she is privileged in that she really like kind of puts herself in the middle of other people's business sometimes, which I think is part of her. It's just part of her as a character. And again, I really loved her growth throughout the book series, especially with the second book in this series. You really see her change. She has a very strong sense of justice, but she definitely still has a long way to go to really understand, you know, the people that she's trying to fight for. And I enjoy reading her growth. Next is Fire and Bitter Blue from the Graceling Realms series. Especially Fire, the things that she goes through growing up. She's called a monster, and monsters are seen as these really bloodthirsty, dangerous creatures because they are charming in like a different level. They're very alluring and you will find yourself seduced by them. And sometimes you can't control it and you get killed because of that, because you're very alluring. Because she is a human monster, she undergoes a lot of like sexual assault and sexual abuse and sexual harassment growing up. Like people around her sometimes really can't control some of the urges that they have, and she experiences a lot of that and a lot of like really dangerous things because of that. But she's very kind as well. Even though she has this power over people, she hates it, and she hates that people react to her in a certain way, not because of how people react to her, but because of the fact that she is the one who's making them do it. She has a lot of like really self-hatred, like really strong self-hatred, and she blames herself a lot for how the people around her react to her, which isn't really her fault because she can't control it. So I really liked her because she stayed very strong and very kind still and very understanding. And another one is Bitter Blue, especially with the Bitter Blue Winterkeep tandem, because we're following those two books. Bitter Blue I didn't really enjoy a lot, like the first book of her like perspective, but with Winterkeep, especially with the changes, the expansion of the world that she has come to know, I really enjoyed her growth, especially considering with what she's gone through, because in the book Graceling, that's when we first see Bitter Blue, and she was rescued by the main characters there, Poe and Katsa, and she was very young. I think she was only 10. Her father was a tyrant. Her mother died trying to keep her safe, and they were on the run before Poe and Katsa was able to save her, and then she became the queen at like 10. She had to take care of this kingdom that has gone through a really massive brainwashing for, I think it was 20-30 years under her father's reign. It was a difficult journey for her to go through, and I just loved how smart she is, and you know, how capable, but also how vulnerable she was, and how much she relies on other people, and you know, how much she sees other people as like allies. And I really like that, because a lot of the times with like main female characters in like fantasy stories, they tend to be like very isolated, and they tend to be like they have to do like all of it all at once. But with her being a queen, she understands even though she wants to do that, like she wants to do all of this all at once, just her, she can't do it, and so she relies on other people, and I really like that. That's also one thing that one of the criticisms that I have for the book is that a lot of things were just being reported to her and she's not actually doing a lot of it. It's also part of her journey where she's being kept sheltered from the realities of her kingdom. To me, that was really frustrating. She wants to be a great queen, a good queen, and she wants to bring this whole kingdom into healing, but the people around her, the people that are, you know, have also power and control over the kingdom, are keeping things from her and keeping things from getting better because they're trying to keep her safe and they're trying to keep themselves safe too. I really enjoyed her to still be so caring and empathetic to her people, but also very strong in that. The next one, Valora from Like of the Titanic, another character that's just really like strong, you know, has to get what she wants and fights for her dreams and what she wants to do for the rest of her life in this world, in the world that she knows that she's being kept caged in. Yes, and then Sia from Inheritance Trilogy, right there. We're following his story in the last book here, the last trilogy. He's a god, so it's a little bit complicated to follow his story because he definitely he's lived thousands of years, and it's very like complex the way he's kind of grown up, but he's also like supposed to be like a kid god, so he has those things. And yeah, just he's a very complicated character to follow. There might be like things that one would see as problematic and wrong and unkind and mean. I really enjoyed following his story, especially because of what happens to him in that last book and what he has to go through, and for his own growth as well as his own growth as well as a god. So next one, book that made you cry. This is, again, I cry a lot. I cry very easily. This is not very surprising that I have a lot of books here. Some of these I've already mentioned. Saga Sisters of Tuscany. Again, I cried in the last 150 200 pages of this book. Next, A Man Called Uva. Finally read this one. I knew it was going to be emotional for me, and yes, I did cry a lot. But it's like a bittersweet kind of tears. It's not really like painful, raging tears. More like bittersweet. So, Man Called Uva, Good Girl, Bad Blood. Again, this one is more of like the painful kind of tears. Like you really empathize with the character, with the amount of pain that they're going through, and that you're just crying with and for them. This one, that's the one for me. Good Girl, Bad Blood. All the Tides of Fate by Adeline Grace. This is another like kind of surprising book for me for this year. The All the Stars and Teeth duology. Definitely highly recommend. YA fantasy with pirates and mermaids and found family and a really unique magic system. All the Tides of Fate, the second book in this series, made me cry a lot. Kind of like a painful, heartbreaking kind of crying, and also a sad crying. Next, Crooked Kingdom. If you've read the book, you know, and I said before, it made me cry and it broke me. Still makes me very emotional think about it. It's the painful, sad, bitter crying for this one. Yeah. Next is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. I knew this was going to be a very emotional read for me, so cried reading this book. Definitely. It's like a painful, like, why is this happening? Why is this happening in this world kind of crying. Luck of the Titanic. Again, we know how it's going to end, and I thought I prepared myself for this one. I thought I prepared myself for the emotional end of it. It was still unexpected for me. I still cried. It's like a painful, bitter, like, why kind of crying. Next is Eat Your Heart Out. Same thing with Luck of the Titanic, Crooked Kingdom, and All Tides of Fate. It's the painful, bitter, why is this happening kind of cry. Like, why? I just want everybody to be happy kind of crying. Yes. Next one, books that made you happy. Okay, the first one that I'm gonna mention, that might sound very weird to you, Scythe, because this is also a pretty complicated series. This is a dystopia utopian kind of book where people have gone through everything, and where people don't die anymore from diseases and old age, and so they have these scythes who are tasked to control the population in a way. So it's up to them to decide who they're going to glean, is what they're calling. So it's a very dark kind of story, but it still made me happy. Kind of, it's like a fun story in a way that it opens up discussions with humanity and killing, where the world might go to someday. And it just, I feel like because it opens up a lot of discussions about where we're going as a society, as humans, with our technology and our science, and just how much, technology we're getting and all of that. It opens up a lot of discussion. So there are a lot of definitely emotional things in here. I had a lot of fun reading it because it's a reality that I feel like could happen, and that might be like a really scary, sad thing to think about, but I don't know, it still made me happy because it's kind of a reality that I expected, that I kind of imagined we would go through, realize. And I feel like it's kind of a cautionary tale too. This is where we might go, so everybody be careful. Okay, this definitely might happen. There's like a really big possibility. This is our future in, like, I don't know, 100 years, maybe less. Next one is Nothing to See Here. This book right here by Kevin Wilson. Right there. It's a very short story, and it's also a very emotional story because there are definitely dark themes in this book as well. But I loved the found family aspect of it because we're following, I forgot her name obviously, the main character who gets recruited by her old college friend to take care of her friend's stepson and daughter. They're brother and sister, and they spontaneously combust. And it's just a beautiful story of just this connection between the main character and these two kids who have grown up in a very kind of neglected way. And it made me very happy because it's found family, and as complicated and messy it was to get there, it was still a beautiful story of family, and I'm very happy that they found a home that they found a true home on the end of the story. I don't want to is that a spoiler? I don't know, but yeah, because it's a great story of family, family. Next one, Love and Gelato series. I really enjoyed this one. This was a lot of fun. If you're looking for a great like summer read this one, Love and Gelato series. It's romance, but there's a very like heavy family topics on each of the books as well. A lot of fun. Really enjoyed the romance too in this one, and the family. Next one is Take a Hint, Danny Brown. Is that very surprising? Really enjoyed that one. So yeah, it made me happy thinking about it because it's such a cute story, and I love the representation of anxiety here. Although I don't have like anxiety disorders, I'm a very anxious person. I do suffer from anxiety as well. It's not officially diagnosed, but it's still very much present in my life. And again, I have personal experience with panic attacks and anxiety. So next one, most beautiful book you've bought so far. Okay, I have a few. Okay, these two books, I'm pretty sure you've seen The Nakedness. So you might not know, I do unboxings of 3 different book boxes here. So Limited Crate, Allen Crate, and Referral Links. So I definitely get like special editions of books, beautiful special editions. But these are the regular hardcovers. So this is King of Scars. Again, this is just regular. You can buy it at Barnes & Noble, Target. Look at it. It has this beautiful design foiling on the naked hardcover, and I know that they have special editions of this one, and they have even like on the back too, but this is already so pretty. The sequel as well, Rule of Wolves, foiling on the front and on the spine. Beautiful, right? Amazing. And in a perfect world, I will have this display just naked, but they accumulate dust very easily, so I don't do that very often. I don't do it. This one is a very recent purchase. This is Cemetery Boys. Look at that. So pretty, right? I love foilings on the naked hardcovers of books, and already like the covers are already so beautiful, and then you open it and you have like a really beautiful surprise on the inside. So these are like the regular ones that I own, and I'm going to show you the one that I got that is my favorite from like special edition book boxes. Oh, also this one is a special edition from Fairloot, I believe. Oh, Fake Race, from Fake Race. This is Elise Kova's Deal with the Elf King. Look at that. So pretty, right? So again, I love foilings on hardcovers. So, and the sides are like silver sprayed edges. Oh, before that, these 2 books are so beautiful. These are in the new UK paperback editions of We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars. New UK editions of Spin the Dawn and Unravel the Dusk. And the one that I personally think is the prettiest book I've received ever, which is Deep in Gold. This is the Fairloot exclusive edition. So you have this one. The spine is also designed with sprayed edges. And then of course, the naked hardcover. Right? I love it. This is my favorite. And of course, there's art on the inside too of the dust jacket. Okay, so those are some of the previous books that I bought and received so far this year. Alright, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? In a perfect world, all of my TBR, I need to read by the end of the year. But King of Scars, Rule of Wolves, definitely. Chronicles of the Witch Queen by KSV Oso. And Ember in the Ashes series. Yes, I haven't read it. Please don't come for me. It's on my top, okay? Blood of the Star series. Again, I just showed these 2. Yes. The David Bad trilogy. Yes, I haven't read it either. I know. The Bone Witch series. Puppy War trilogy. I know. Yes, I want to get to it by the end of the year. Stamped from the Beginning by Abraham X. Kendi. I need to read that. Also White Rage. If We Were Villains by Emily Rio. I need to get to this. Prior's War and Ironheart. These 2. I need to get to them. And like a lot more. Like Such Queen and Crown of Wishes. I need to get to that. Shadow of the Fox trilogy by Julie Kagawa Wyatt by Suzanne Kane. Like all of these books that I haven't read, I need to get to by the end of the year. But obviously I can't because in a perfect world I would get them. Yeah, I have a lot of books that I need to read. Yeah, but these are the ones that I do want to prioritize for this year, like before the end of the year, to read these books. So hopefully, like there's like 20 books in my top TBR. If I'm gonna keep like my same pace, I can finish them in probably 2 months. So this is my mid-year book freakout tag. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Let me know your answers on the question down below, especially your biggest surprise, your favorite characters, best books, best sequels, your most anticipated reads, your top TBR for the rest of the year. Let me know down below. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you on my next one.